My sister got a new MacBook and a luxury spa trip. Mom kissed her and said, "You deserve everything." I got a leftover cupcake and a card that read, "Try harder next year." I smiled, grabbed my briefcase, and left. 3 days later, their groceries were canceled, the Wi-Fi was cut, and the mortgage app locked. But what showed up in their mailbox the next morning changed everything. "Stop acting like you're the victim, Keaton." My sister's voice cracked through the living room. The air smelled like burnt candles and resentment. Mom stood between us, holding a glass of wine like it was proof of her calm. Dad sat on the couch, half watching, half waiting for me to lose control. "I'm not acting," I said quietly. "You just don't like when I speak." "You ruined her night," Mom snapped. "All because you couldn't handle her getting what she deserves." I looked at the new MacBook on the counter, still shining in its box, next to an envelope labeled "Spa Retreat for Two." "And what exactly do I deserve?" I asked. Mom's jaw tightened. "A leftover cupcake, because that's all effort deserves." The room went quiet. Thick, heavy silence. Then my sister smiled. "Maybe if you weren't such a disappointment, you'd get something better." That's when Dad finally spoke, voice flat. "Keaton, don't start drama you can't handle." The laughter from the other room echoed like background noise to my own heartbeat. And then, Mom said it. "We know what you did with the accounts." The words froze me. "What accounts?" I asked. Her eyes darted away. That was the moment I realized something was already in motion. "My name's Keaton Hale, 27. I don't shout anymore. I used to. It never worked. You learn over time that silence burns slower and deeper. I work as a systems analyst. Numbers, security, quiet precision. I fix other people's messes for a living. Fitting, right? The same skill that keeps companies safe. Kept my family afloat for years. They never noticed the bills got paid on time. They never noticed the car insurance renewal just happened. They just assumed Keaton handles it, and I did. Until the night I stopped. Because they forgot one thing about silent people. We remember everything. Mom, Lydia, emotional, always holding a glass, loves appearances. Dad, Russ, proud, distant, retired too early, blames everyone but himself. Sister, Mara, 24, adored, loud, sharp-tongued, the achiever. And me, the background noise they built their confidence on. "Don't twist things," Mara said, pointing at me. "You locked the Wi-Fi last month because you were mad." "I was upgrading it," I said. "You were controlling it, Dad," interrupted. "You've always had that issue?" Mom sighed loudly, like exhaustion was a form of victory. "We just want peace, Keaton." Funny. The people who cause chaos are always the first to demand peace. But the tension in their voices told me something else. They were hiding something, and somehow it involved me. The argument turned into a storm, overlapping voices, half-truths. Dad slammed his glass down. "You think you're smarter than us because you make more money?" "I never said that," I said calmly. "But maybe being responsible doesn't make me arrogant." Mara scoffed. "Responsible? You didn't even tell us about the refund." I froze. "What refund?" Mom looked away. "Your name was still on the mortgage account, Keaton. I thought it made sense to use it for the payment." "So you used my refund to cover their bills?" I asked quietly. Her voice cracked. "Family helps each other." "Except when it's me," I said. Silence. Then Dad muttered, "You always keep score." I smiled faintly. "Because you never remember what you take." By the end of that night, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. And I wasn't their puppet anymore. Mara leaned forward. "You've always been jealous. Admit it." I laughed softly. "Jealous? Of what? Being the favorite?" "Of being loved," she snapped. That one hit harder than I expected. I didn't reply. I just looked at her. Really looked. The perfectly curated version of our family's pride. Mom stood up, trembling slightly. "Keaton, please don't ruin this family." Dad added coldly, "You've done enough." I placed my coffee down, calm, deliberate. You're right. I have. For the first time, no one had a comeback. The quiet scared them more than my anger ever could. They didn't realize yet. I'd already made my move. 3 years ago, Mom called me crying. Your father's credit cards are maxed. We could lose the house. I transferred my entire savings. $18,000. No hesitation. A week later, I found out Mara got a new car. A gift from Mom and Dad. My money. When I asked, Dad said, "You'll understand when you have kids." Mom said, "We'll pay you back." They never did. That night, I sat on my apartment floor, laptop glowing, and I promised myself, never again. Back in the present, I looked around the room. They were arguing about groceries, Wi-Fi, money, like it all just happened. They didn't know every click, every payment, every account ran through me, and that's when it hit me. They'd used me so long, they forgot what dependence felt like. They were about to remember. Mom finally broke. "We didn't mean to hide it, Keaton." "Hide what?" I asked. She hesitated. "Your father refinanced the house last year, under your name." My pulse thudded. "You what?" Dad said defensively. "You weren't using your credit. It made sense." "You stole my identity," I whispered. Mara looked down. "It was my idea," she said quietly. "We just needed one more signature." For a moment, the room spun. All those years, I was the quiet one. They took my silence as permission. But silence doesn't mean forgiveness. It means waiting. And I'd waited long enough. I stood slowly. The air felt heavy, sharp. "You know," I said, "I used to think being family meant unconditional love. Turns out, it just meant unconditional access." "Keaton, please," Mom said, voice shaking. "We were desperate." "You were greedy," I corrected, Mara whispered. "You can't just cut us off." I smiled faintly. I already did. They didn't understand what I meant, not yet. But by morning, their groceries were canceled, their Wi-Fi cut, and their mortgage portal locked. I walked to the door. "I gave you all my silence," I said. "Tonight, I give you the truth." Mom's hand trembled on her glass. "You'll regret this." "No," I said softly. "You will." 3 days later, I drove past their house, curtains drawn, lights dim, no laughter. For years, I chased their approval. Now I only felt relief. Mara texted once. "You didn't have to destroy everything." I replied, "I didn't. I just stopped saving it." I started sleeping better, eating better, existing without guilt. For the first time, I wasn't the backup plan. But then, something unexpected arrived. A letter in their mailbox, addressed to the Hale family from a law firm. It wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. They finally learned. The house, the savings, the accounts. Everything they used was never in their name anymore. It was mine. Weeks passed. Mom called once. No shouting, no guilt. Just, "I hope you're okay." I said, "I am." And I meant it. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. They'll never see me the same, and I don't need them to. Sometimes freedom doesn't come from forgiveness. It comes from finally walking away and not turning back. Standing by my window, watching the city lights blink, I whispered to myself, "For the first time, I don't carry their weight anymore." And I felt light. If you were in my place, would you forgive them or walk away forever? Tell me in the comments. Your story matters too. If you felt Keaton's silence, his pain, his patience, his peace, like, share, and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in stillness, because sometimes the quiet ones don't stay quiet forever.